Hey guys, so for those who don't know, I'm Gio. I made scrap.tf with my partner Jesse, and I want to make a video in response to the general consensus, the general idea that Team Fortress 2 is dying. I was gonna make this video earlier, but Lang and Banny made their videos, and I felt it's not really my place. Let it you know die out. Let the hate die out. And that's not really happening. So I know I'm not really a community face. I know I'm not a streamer or a YouTube person. I'm not great at singing. I can't make funny montages. What I do is I love playing Team Fortress 2. I love the game. It is a passion of mine. Um, Far more so than just trading, far more so than the economy. The game itself has been one of the staples of my life for over 7 years now. 6 years, my apologies. And so this video is all just my own experiences and opinions. I don't really have a script for this, so I apologize if I ramble a little bit. I have a few notes, a few bullet points, but this is all from the heart. This is all something I feel strongly about. So the basic idea is that I believe that Team Fortress 2 is not dying. Team Fortress 2 is not dead. I watched Lang's video on the topic. He's focused more on the competitive, but the general mood of it all is that Team Fortress 2 is dead. Valve doesn't care, and I share his feelings in a few ways. I can see why he's upset. I can see why he feels this way. But I think Banny really hit the nail on the head when he responded to Lang. So I'm not really going to focus on Lang's video or the competitive side of it all because I feel like that's pretty well covered. However, I do want to note Stabby leaving, which happened a few hours ago for me. That sucks. That kind of hit home because I've never met Stabby. I've never seen anything he's done, which sounds kind of heartless, but um, you know, I've known about him. I've known, Stabby, the great spy. He's the best spy in the world, and that's just who he is. He's this ethereal object to me, and now he's gone. Now he's done, and that hits home. That's kind of like the end of an era. It feels like, right? But he's been playing for over 7 years, to my knowledge. And how many things do you have an interest in that are, more like, how many hobbies, how many fun things do you have that you've enjoyed for over 7 years without ever taking a break? I've even taken breaks from TF2. I never tried to quit, never thought I would quit. But I can see from his perspective as a competitive player, it's time to move on. And he may think that Team Fortress 2 is dying, but it's it's not his place to say, I feel. He may be done and he may lose interest, but we're still here and we're still here to feel bad about that. And we're still here to feel like, well, maybe he shouldn't have left because Team Fortress 2 is awesome, right? And maybe there's that new guy that just downloaded Team Fortress 2 for the first time and he's watching this video and he has no idea who I am or what I'm talking about. And to you I say, good luck, but people are going to leave, people are going to quit, new players are going to come in as well. And you might never be a new player again, you won't ever be a new player again, but maybe it's time to pass on the reins if that's how you feel, and not try to burn the reins and say nobody else can have it. So that's why I'm Stabby. So a bit of background on me. I started playing Team Fortress 2 in 2008, right around the time that the medic update dropped. I'm not sure, the payload update. And I'm not sure which came first. Shoot. I actually forget which came first. But I've been there through every update, through every single change since 2008. I've been there to through the good and the bad, to see how people react, to see how I react, and it's it coming from this perspective of not having what we have now, not having this whole crazy economy that's worth hundreds of millions of dollars, and more on that later actually. But having come from that, I can understand why it's really hard for Valve to top their updates. Because when we had nothing, when we had vanilla everything, a new weapon was a crazy idea. I mean, and a new weapon that has such different effects, it's not just like plus 5% fire rate. I mean, that's crazy. But now, it's really hard to top that because we're so used to that, and we constantly want new things and better things, and the hundreds of weapons that there are in the game currently just aren't enough, even though we started with like 30. Try that. And I don't know. I mean, I've been there. I was there when Man Economy was out, and that bothered me. I thought that wasn't a good idea. I thought, Valve is turning TF2 into some pay-to-win, microtransaction mobile game, and I was wrong. I think Valve did it very, very well. I think Valve did it ethically. I was there when free-to-play was out, and that bothered me. It hurt when Valve said, for those who bought it, here's a very low quality, very little effort put into it hack that nobody wears anymore because it looks awful and it's just not a good hat, and it's a terrible way to compensate those who paid $20 or more to play Team Fortress 2. And I mean, I've dealt with the pessimism in the community. I've seen that and been a part of it and argued against it throughout this entire career of Team Fortress 2, and I'm still here because I believe in Team Fortress 2. And I mean, the real kicker was Robotic Boogaloo. I think that was the worst update of all time, because Valve essentially, in some people's minds, and it's hard to argue against it because we don't know what Valve's thinking, but they essentially turned the community into hat machines, because the first community made update, which, I mean, they had a chance to do something really great there, and they turned it into hats. And I believe there was at one point, man versus machine content and all that, and they scrapped that, much like CV Snowplow. But it essentially cemented this idea that the community is responsible for the hats, and Valve will handle the big boy stuff like weapons and gameplay and maps even. And I don't think people realized the effects of that until recently, until End of the Line happened, that people realized that Valve does not care about the community updates. But I don't think Valve is failing in the way that everybody else thinks Valve is failing. So Valve is failing their player base in one of two ways. So they're either failing to care about TF2 beyond the hats and the transactions and the money it's making them, or Valve is failing to communicate that they care. And I very much think that the problem is Valve's communication. And I know that people agree that communication is the issue, but I don't think they agree that the communication is the root issue. So I think what's happening is Valve knows that they have a communication issue. Valve knows that the community feels in the dark about everything. And I think they're trying to communicate, but on very different areas than we would like. So there was no communication with Snowplow, no communication that the Ducks would be paid to play even though they offer nothing, and that does upset me. I think that was a bad move on Valve's part. Um, but I think they've recently done some. I mean, recently, within 2014, they've recently done like a few blog posts about how they balance weapons and how I think it was maps. And I mean, they're being very open about the Cactus Canyon and asteroid maps and their development. And I mean, if you look at the recent art paths in the asteroid, I mean, it's done well. It's done by people who care. And I think I read something about a line of code that's like on like a wall or something that makes the robots care more about working than eating or something. And that's only people who care would come up with something that cute, you know? And I think what's happening is that they realize, they know internally that this moon base update is a big deal. Like a big deal. It's not just an asteroid map. I think it's a huge deal in terms of the TF2 canon, in terms of maybe new unusual effects, maybe a whole new item quality, new weapons, laser weapons, more laser weapons. So they're like, well, of course we should communicate. We need to communicate with our players on these big issues, such as the moon base, but we can't spoil something. So I think that they're forgetting that we don't know that moon base is a big deal. We only think it's a map, and it could be just a map, but I have a hard time accepting that it's just a simple little map that they're putting so much effort into. So, I mean, I could be wrong about all this. End of the line could be the end of the line for quality updates, for Valve caring, but you have to think about, why would Valve stop? Why would Valve stop caring? I mean, Team Fortress 2, according to a graph I don't have a source for, but I think it's pretty common knowledge, Team Fortress 2 made $135 million for Valve in 2013. And I'm pretty sure that rivals AAA game releases. And this is for a then 6-year-old game. I mean, that's an insane amount of money. And the reason it's making that much money is what I would assume to be Valve's painstaking dedication to it in years prior. Previous. Doesn't matter. I mean, the duck update, the duck journals, they caused a lot of doubt. I mean, when I saw the duck journals, I was the first to lead the outcry. I put a post on Reddit and it was front page, and I mean, I was furious that you had to pay $5 to take part in this event that does nothing. And it wasn't even clear at the time that any of that money went to the EOTL creators. And now we don't even know how much goes to it, like 30%, which is not enough. That's not fair, I don't think. But you have to consider that premium TF2 content that people have to pay for, that adds gameplay elements, which the Duck Journal did fail to do, I will admit, it has to happen eventually. And Man vs. Machine was just the first iteration on that. And we know Valve loves to iterate. We know Valve loves to experiment with the way they make money, they do things. And they saw through Man vs. Machine that people are going to do something if they can get something out of it. They're going to pay to do something if they're going to get something out of it. And I mean, TF2 does have to make money. I mean, that's Valve's job. That's why, I mean, Valve hires people to make Valve more money so they can hire people to make more money. That's the only reason they hire any employees. But I think they're smart enough. I think they're intelligent enough and wise enough to know that making money is not just directly making money. It is caring. It is at least showing the illusion that you care, which is what Valve used to do. and I think we've lost that. But it doesn't mean it has to be gone forever. I mean, if you love Team Fortress 2, if you truly care about the game, and I know you do, I know that you care about Team Fortress 2 because that's why you're so angry about it. You're so angry about Team Fortress 2 because this is this game that you cherish and you care about and you think they're killing it. So if you love this game, don't tell Valve they're killing it. Tell Valve this is how you fix it. This is how you keep it alive. This is what we want. We don't want it to die. All right? And to Valve, when people tell you the game is dying, what they're really saying is please don't let it die. I mean, if I knew that if I applied at Valve, I would get accepted, which is probably not wouldn't happen at all. I would take that job because I want to work on TF2. I want to fix TF2. I want to open that line of communication, you know. I would take that job. And that's because I love Team Fortress 2. And I don't want to just sit by and go, well, told you it'd die. I want to be like, well, we tried everything, and 10 years later, it finally died. That's what I want to do. One last thing, the economy. So my main claim to fame is because of the economy, right? I run scrap.tf, and it's a trading website. So the economy is changing a lot recently. It's ref is crashing, buds are dropping, keys are rising in terms of ref, which is not really changing anything. Actually, if you think about it, but that doesn't really mean it's doomed. So I mean, first of all, a forewarning: I am not an economist. I basically don't know anything about economies. So if somebody knows more than I do about this, please feel free to correct me. But refined is inherently worth very little, and that's just because I mean it's constantly being created. In the beginning of this whole economy, there's a reason to craft refined because you wanted hats, and there are so few hats in the game. But now there's a million copies of each different hat, and there's no reason to craft any hats because you can go to scrap.tf and buy them for 1.33. And this falling of refined in value is absolutely guaranteed. And I think we all knew it would happen unless Valve adds a metal sink. And they did. They added the bread box, which sunk hats, which gave people a reason to craft more hats out of refined. And actually, keys went down, refined went up for a little bit. And I mean, Valve previously, before that, they added chemistry sets, which is like 200 weapons. And I think that was their way of testing the effects of metal sink. And I mean, I have no evidence to suggest that Valve would add a metal sink, but I do know they care about the economy. I mean, I took a tour of Valve during PAX Prime 2014, and I was with a large group, right? It wasn't. I've never visited Valve like that's a big deal or anything, but I asked them, do you have long-term plans for Team Fortress 2? Are you just gonna let it die? I also asked them about keyless crates, and they didn't answer me about that one. But they told me that like they have a whole team of economists at Valve. They have just their job is knowing how economies work. And the guy told me, I don't remember his name, we have long-term plans for Team Fortress 2. And I have to trust that Valve knows what they're doing. I mean, scrap.tf, personally, from what I know, which is what scrap.tf is, scrap.tf is doing better than ever. We're getting more page views, more viewers, more trades every day. We do something like 30 to 40,000 trades on a weekday, each day. And I mean, most of those are weapons. Most of those are weapon trades. And that speaks to the idea that a lot of new players are coming in. A lot of new people need weapons or want to exchange their weapons. And I think that's a sign that the TF2 as a whole is healthy. more than you would believe. But we do have to accept that one day TF2 will die. One day Team Fortress 2 will have no players, will be making no money. It'll have had its last update, its last big update, and it will be probably pretty lackluster. But we control that day. Team Fortress 2 is run by one of the most dedicated and caring communities in the world that I've ever seen in my life. I mean, it's insane. And Valve absolutely knows that. Valve knows beyond a doubt that they owe everything to their community. Hopefully. And Team Fortress 2 will die when the community gives up on it. Team Fortress 2 will die when the community tells it that it should die. And that's what we're doing. So stop.